going on, everybody? Welcome back. Happy New Year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, so on and so forth. Welcome back to the van. So I've made a little skosh of progress off of camera, but that's what we're about to get into. So first and foremost, I'm going to update you guys on the cooling system before I go into all the throttle junk that I'm doing. So the hard pipes came in from Burley Motorsports, and I have them sort of mounted with some vibration damping type stuff, but I'm going to do some more fine tuning on this because I'm not completely satisfied with it yet. But suffice to say that they are leaps and bounds better than every other solution that was proposed by anybody. These pipes are rad. If you guys are doing this swap, do it. They route the coolant super nicely away from the engine, up and over the headers. You do have to trim a little bit of the factory radiator pipes, which are basically just the really long metal tubes that go from the front to the back. So to give you a little bit of reference here, this is about how much I had to cut off. So these pipes, what I did, where these pipes used to come through right here, and luckily you can't really tell that I did some modifying on the Firewall, but they were mounted to a bracket right here, so I cut the pipes out. And then what I did is there is actually, on the Firewall, there's like a slot that was cut. So you go from that slot, all I did was cut from right here, up to right here, and then it folds back nice and pretty. That way it's not sharp, doesn't rub against anything. It actually worked out really nicely. So I'm very pleased with that. I've got one more radiator hose to put on that. And then I have to hook up the heater core and put the overflow container on there, and we should have a fully functioning cooling system slash heater system for this van. So that's exciting. We're on the tail end of that. Since I have that system mostly figured out and I wanted to make some headway on drivability stuff so we could get you guys some driving footage here soon. As you guys may have remembered, I was fighting with some issues. This is a throttle body reverser plate, which basically you mount like this and it flips the throttle body so that the linkage is being pulled the correct direction. This does not work for obvious reasons. It sticks way up over the engine compartment, so this is not a viable option for this particular chassis, unfortunately. It would work just fine for a Volkswagen Beetle, pretty much anything that didn't have a rear engine cover and you have more vertical room on top of it. This would be fine. It's not gonna work for me. So, there was a couple other options we looked into. First and foremost, Busroo recommends that you flip the eccentric on the throttle body. Now, it seemed a little sketchy to me. The throttle body was not really having a great time with me taking the nut off, so rather than have another throttle body break, literally just from trying to disassemble it, which is what happened to the other one, I took a trip down to my local favoritist speed shop, and I got this here cable. So this is basically designed for LS motors that are being swapped into older chassis. I don't think it really matters, it's more or less universal, but it's basically to connect a mechanical linkage on a throttle pedal to an LS1. It has this what's called a Bowden tube, which is basically just a tube that stays still so that way this can travel both ways, right? So what I'm going to do, as you can tell, it bolts perfectly up to the Subaru side here. So I'm in the middle of making a bracket, and basically what's going to happen is I'm going to mount it right here so it can go into the manifold, get some nice swoopy curves. It's not going to be pinched or anything. And then I'm going to connect both throttle cables right here. I'm going to have to cut this section off because basically, so it's going to be mounted about right here, nice and clean. Points right at the throttle cable. Connect these two together, whether it's solder or some other method. I have not decided yet. I got to figure out the best course of action. And then, as I had said before, a bracket. So what I'm doing is I'm in the middle of, here I kind of sketched it out on this, taking one out of the Project Binky handbook here. If you guys haven't seen that, highly recommend. Basically drew it out so I can cut it out of one piece of steel, and then I've really only got one bend to make and two holes to cut. So I'll cut this little L shape out, and then the dotted lines here indicate a bend. So I'm going to bend that to 45 degrees after I drill the hole and cut the slot in it for the cable to pass through. But that is going to allow me to mount this throttle cable right here. It'll be nice and clean, functional, shiny, fancy, and just for exemplification purposes, it works perfect. So as long as your pedal can connect to this little guy, she works mint. I'm gonna get banging on this some more. and then we'll bring you guys back in once I've got a more functional design. In the meantime, let's do a time lapse. It's a few days later for me, same episode for you, but I've been putting in some work off camera. Here's where we're at. Here's the dealio. O2 sensor, connected, plugged in, working. The cooling system is more or less sorted. I didn't like the bracketry I had, so I'm gonna make some new brackets for that. Throttle cable, fully operational. Shifter, fully operational. Slave is installed. The fuel tank is back in. 99.9% of the wiring is done. All I have to do is run one wire from the AC on knob back to the AC compressor clutch. So I got to do that. I have to get some custom lines made for that to work and build an intake. Other than that, in theory, this car is about done. Oh, and I'm going to, as per the Bussaroo guide, I am going to heed his advice and not take my own path on this one and drill a 2-inch hole with a hole saw right on the inside of this cubby right here, and that basically allows me to, or sorry, not on this cubby, but in this cubby. When I drill that hole, it'll allow me to take the ECU and the wiring harness and tuck it up and over and get it into this completely unused cabinet right here. So we're gonna be doing that. I gotta change the ground out, but other than that, this thing is it's pretty close to being more or less drivable. I know Chris was doing some silly stuff behind me. I don't know what. I guess I'll see it when the video comes out. There's something else exciting that I wanted to update you guys on, and Chris and I are probably going to make another video about this, so stay tuned for that. But let's segue out of the van and go this way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what you see on either side of me here are dynamometers. That's right, DBO now has a dyno. I started another company with some friends of mine. It's called Grudge Tech Racing, so if you guys want tunes, let me know. That's pretty much all I'm going to be doing now. I'm not going to be wrenching on people's cars. We'll get into that in the other video. But the point is this here piece of fancy brand new equipment is a mainline dynamometer, and it is fucking cool. I have not used it yet. We literally just got it up and running, what,
yesterday,
day and a half ago?
Yeah.
So it's finally wired, set up, out of the crates. This has been like a year in the making. This means for you guys that we get to dyno all of our shit boxes. This means that we get to see numbers on all of our stupid mods that we do. This means that we can see how much our shitty cars that we buy make. This means we can see how much your cars make. Stop on by. You want a dyno? Hit me up. I don't have an Instagram for this company yet, so when I do, I'll let you guys know what it is and you guys can hit me up. But anyway, the point is, very fancy new piece of equipment. We're very excited about it. This means we can dyno cars, tune cars. No more like sketchy street tuning, endangering lives and such. Oh, and I will be the only guy in Colorado and probably the surrounding states that actually listens for knock. So if you guys want tunes, I'm going to be doing it legit. Anyway, point is, I'm excited. You guys should be excited too, because this means better content for you and more horsepower for us. Anyway, we're going to get back to the old Vanagon here. We're about to cut this here hole. So the idea is we got our 2-inch hole saw. We're going to cut a hole inside of this cabinet here, if you can see. This actually, I'm not a huge fan of doing this, but it is a fairly clean way to do it. Or I'm sorry, not right there. Ooh, that could have been bad. You want to cut it right here. This, believe it or not, does go through the inner part of the rear quarter panel. It goes up to right here. So I'm going to basically use this 2-inch hole saw. I'm going to cut a nice round hole, and then I'm going to make a grommet for it. And then we're going to stab this computer and its very large connector in there. This connector, oh wait, no, is this is the multi-piece. Okay, no, so we're good. I'm going with 2 inches just because that's what was recommended, and it'll make passing this gigantic bulky harness through a little easier. And then I believe this grommet right here is also 2 inches. This is the factory Subaru Firewall grommet. So once I get that done, this will be essentially weather packing it, so there won't be any exchange of gases inside and outside the van. Okay, as you can see, the wiring harness actually fit quite nicely, and that grommet was money. It's going to be really good at keeping all the gas and other weird smells out. Or what I mean by gas is, you know, gas is emitted by the motor. So last thing I'm going to do here before I wrap this little section up and tack this off the list is I'm just going to mount this basically like this and into the cabinet right there, so it's not all just rattling around and floating around. Okay, so I felt like this was a good idea and I wanted to share it with you guys. So if you're doing this, do this. What I did was I took some RTV and a piece of like styrofoam slash foam stuff.
Like packing material.
It's like, yeah, packing material. This actually came in the hole saw that I bought, and I'm just going to glue it right here. That way, as you're riding and the ECU is vibrating, it doesn't make noise.
A little bit of dampening for you.
Yeah, sound dampening. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, back to work. Doing the old tried and true finger bang level check method. As you can see, fingers dry. She ain't ready. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus.
No, but really, making sure that I fill the transmission now before we're ready to drive it. So that way, when we do drive it, I don't forget about it.
Or kill a trans.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. This is like a nice fancy trans. Okay, so I have been grinding away literally for about the last hour to try and finally finish this cooling system off. And as you may be able to tell, I have gone through quite the overflow hell. No. 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 Oh, maybe you. I need you. No. See. Ding, ding, ding.
Bueno.
This is an E30 coolant reservoir from an early model. So, you know, just couldn't help myself. Had to throw a little dash of Bavaria my style in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I actually haven't even test fit this bracket, so let's see if it fits. If I can, here's the bolt. So this bolts to the motor. Yes, I chose the bolt to the coolant reservoir to the motor. Questionable decision, perhaps? I don't know. Fight me later.
I don't think it is.
Fight me in the comments.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that goes there. One sends this guy. Bolt right to. Okay, my measurements were. I put them an 1/8 over to ensure that I had room for that bend right there because I figured it was going to take up some space. But as it turns out, when you hammer metal into a bend, it actually doesn't take up any space. So I need to cut this so that the hole actually lines up. So I'm gonna cut a little bit more off of it. No big deal. Cut it, clean it up, and then as you can tell, this is gonna mount right here. And then what I have to do.
Mint, dude.
Yeah, I think it's like a really clean location to mount it. I didn't like how the other one looked. I shouldn't be going for looks really, but you know, it's also functional. So Volkswagen does things a little strange. Instead of running the overflow into, BMW runs it into the radiator. Volkswagen uses an expansion tank and an overflow tank, which is weird, but basically the way that it works is you have two, right? So you got this guy, which mounts conveniently behind this license plate.
It's very cute.
Yep, so it mounts right there. But the point is very soon I'm gonna get to start pouring these copious amounts of coolant in there. Oh, I still gotta build an intake for it. Lame. Oh well, won't be hard. I think it's only gonna involve cutting. And since we don't have a TIG welder anymore, can't do any fancy TIGging, so I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, yeah, finish up the cooling system, one hose, bam, mount the other bottle, bam, build an intake, bam, this van's driving. So, anyway,
yeah.
That's where we're at.
Let's go.
Okay, holy crap. I have been chugging away like a madman since last we did some video. Alright, here is the results. So firstly, you guys saw this. This is all mounted up now, so that's nice. I need a cap for it. We may have one or I may get a new one. I'm not sure. Either way, I got the overflow tank, that weird thing I was talking about, mounted right here. I am definitely, for the long term, going to have to figure out some sort of a heat blockage solution because it is literally right above the cat. So I may cover this in fiberglass heat wrap or something to that effect, or maybe I'll wrap the cat and the muffler and put the heat shield on. We're gonna have to do a lot of heat protecting on this, so there's still gonna be a little bit I'm gonna have to tinker with after you guys see it all said and done. But then actually the intake went really smoothly. It was not nearly as difficult as I had thought. So we've got the intake all rigged up for the most part. I had to reroute some wiring a little bit, no big deal. And then I was able to take the original grommet and intake air temperature sensor out of the factory airbox. So this motor in the Forester, at least for sure in 2004, is a speed density car, so there's no math, which is weird because when I was at the junkyard looking for parts and stuff, there was one that was the same year that was an Outback sitting right next to it, and it had a math. So I don't know why, but either way, no math on this car, speed density only. So we've got that hooked up. I'm gonna, figure out a little bit better mounting, but all right. So, and then the cool part about having this cubby and having the ECU properly mounted up above is that what I'm gonna do is probably chop this about right here-ish, and then we'll do a coupler right here, and then we'll have like more or less a real cold air intake. I mean, it'll kind of be in the engine compartment, but also not really. So that's cool. We'll be sucking all of our air from inside that cubby. The last thing that I'm going to do, I'll probably do off camera while you guys aren't looking. Right here we've got, this is basically crankcase ventilation. We've got one coming from each bank since this is a flat 4. So here's the other one. So basically what we need to do is run these into a T and then run the T into the intake. Throttle cable works, cooling system is intact. Engine has oil, it has coolant, it has throttle, it has electricity. This is she's a runner. I need a radiator cap and I need to tighten a couple things down, but she's about ready for a test drive, so this is pretty exciting. This has been a good project. I'm excited to drive it tomorrow. It's been a long time coming, and I'm sure Richard will be very excited to hear that it's about done as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad you guys are watching. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, each and every one of you, individually and all together. Hope you have a great night. Stay tuned. Cheers.